my nominal uncle Asher Chen and I accidentally got entangled for a night. I'd heard he never dated, never gave any woman a title, and never touched the same woman twice. Yet, he maintained an ambiguous relationship with me for half a year. Until one day Mrs. Chen happily showed me a photo. This is the fiancée Asher picked himself. Isn't she beautiful? I looked at the stunning, elegant woman in the picture and smiled, offering my blessing. Very beautiful. A perfect match. Congratulations, Uncle Chen. Late that night, Asher Chen suddenly entered my room. Quite the talent, aren't you, Olivia Tang? Calling me husband in bed and uncle when you're out of it. Are you playing me? The next morning, as I dragged my aching body downstairs, Asher was sitting at the dining table. He wasn't wearing a tie, and his shirt collar was open, revealing a bite mark on his collarbone. My legs went weak and I nearly stumbled, grabbing the railing to steady myself. Watch your step. Asher looked up at me, his voice as calm and mild as ever. Come downstairs slowly. Yes, I know. He said nothing more, lowering his head to continue his meal. I watched his long, slender fingers holding the knife and fork, cutting the food on his plate. His knuckles were distinct, clean and strong. My cheeks gradually grew hot. Just last night those hands, so accustomed to holding a scalpel, had invaded territories I had never explored, bringing me an unfamiliar, soaring sensation. I didn't enter the dining room. Instead, I bypassed the table, went into the kitchen, grabbed an egg and a carton of milk, and prepared to leave. Livy. Asher suddenly called out to me. I instinctively stopped and turned around. He had already stood up and was taking his jacket from the helper. It's on the way. I'll take you today. There's no need. I'll take the subway. Asher said nothing, just looked down at me. My gaze met the bite mark on his collarbone, and I quickly looked away as if burned. You're not taking the subway today. Asher raised his wrist to check his watch. Let's go. Afraid he'd lose his patience, I didn't dare insist further. Asher was a surgeon and notoriously fastidious about cleanliness. I didn't dare eat or drink in his car. I had to stuff the egg and milk into my backpack. Getting into the car, I must have aggravated the tear. I sat stiffly in the seat, uncomfortable. Asher seemed to notice. He folded his tablet, lowered the privacy partition in the car, and said, "We'll pass a pharmacy later. Buy a tube of ointment and apply it." I lowered my head, my face burning. "Yes, if it still hurts after applying the ointment, come to the hospital, and I'll take care of it." "I know. I drank a bit too much last night. I lost control for a moment and hurt you." "It's alright, Uncle Chen. I was drunk too. You can't take all the blame." I understood Asher's meaning perfectly. In his eyes, last night was just a drunken mistake. But the truth was, I wasn't drunk at all. On the contrary, I had deliberately used the alcohol to let myself cross the line. Don't overthink things. You should be focusing on your studies right now. Yes. The car moved smoothly. I sat obediently. When the car occasionally jolted, my calf, exposed beneath my short skirt, would brush against his trousers. He made no effort to move, but I quietly shifted a little further away. Halfway there, we passed a pharmacy and he told the driver to pull over. He personally went to buy the medicine for me. Apply it according to the instructions. I took the ointment, nodding obediently. As we neared the school I got out. I watched the car drive away, and then I threw the ointment in my hand into the trash. At noon Asher texted me, "Did you apply the medicine? Does it still hurt?" I did. "It still hurts a bit. We'll see how it is this afternoon." "Okay." He didn't reply after that. I set my phone aside, a small smile playing on my lips. By the afternoon, the heat was making me sweat, and the tear began to throb intensely. I skipped 2 classes and took a taxi to the hospital where Asher worked. The booking app showed his appointments were full. I randomly booked a slot with another male doctor, whose office happened to be right next to his. Less than 10 minutes later, a text came from Asher, "Cancel your appointment, come to my office later." "But it's almost my turn." "Cancel it." "Okay." I cancelled the appointment and sat bored on the bench. It was crowded and stuffy, and the stinging pain from the wound grew more frequent. I got up and went to the restroom, noticing my face was a little pale. Faint pink hickeys peeked out from my shirt collar, and my chest still felt tender. I touched it lightly and couldn't help but wince. A surgeon's grip really is strong. A few minutes later, a young nurse came to find me. "Are you Miss Tang? Dr. Chen asked you to come to his office right now." Asher was wearing a clean white coat and a pair of gold-rimmed glasses, meticulously washing his hands. I watched the water run over his long, slender fingers. The sound of the running water suddenly made me blush. "Get on the bed behind the curtain and lie down. Let me see the wound." Asher glanced at me, motioning to the curtain. The young nurse had already closed the door and left. In the quiet room, it was just the two of us. Asher put on fresh rubber gloves and began to scrub his hands seriously. I did as he said, went behind the curtain, and lay down on the examination bed, spreading my legs and placing them on the stirrups on either side. I bit my lip, slightly embarrassed, and turned my face to the wall. I slowly lifted my legs, separated them, and placed them neatly. Asher's hand was cold as it touched the wound. I couldn't help but shiver. Don't move, it's a little inflamed. Did you apply the ointment as instructed? I nodded obediently. I did, but it didn't seem to work. He frowned slightly. I need to disinfect the wound. It might hurt a little. Bear with him. I bit my lip and looked at him pitifully. Will it hurt more than last night? Asher's gaze softened slightly. No. Okay, that's good then. Please be gentle. He didn't reply, but his subsequent movements were very gentle. Avoid spicy, irritating foods for the next few days and keep it dry. It's not serious. It probably won't hurt tomorrow. Okay. He pulled my skirt, which had ridden up to my waist, back down and straightened it. Get up. There were still clear handprints on my thighs. Asher must have seen them. I clearly felt his breathing hitch for a second. That night, I had just finished showering and was about to apply the medicine when there was a sudden knock on my door. I quickly threw on my pajamas and went to open it. Asher was standing outside. Uncle Chen. Were you looking for me? Asher took a step forward, forcing me to step back. He followed me into the room and casually closed the door. Uncle. I had barely gotten the word out before Asher gripped my chin and bent down to kiss me. He had just showered, and he smelled good, a fresh mint scent filling my senses. I struggled for a moment before the kiss melted my resistance. As we paused for air, I protested weakly, the wound, it still hurts. I know. I won't touch you tonight. Asher said this, but he was already untying the belt of my pajamas. But other places probably don't hurt anymore. They hurt too. I grabbed his hand, my eyes welling up with self-pity. Asher suddenly laughed. He picked me up and carried me to the bed. Livy, let me just hold you while we sleep for a bit. We shouldn't. But Asher had already pulled me into his arms and closed his eyes. Be good. Don't move. I'm very tired today. My heart instantly softened. Asher held me a little tighter, burying his face in my neck. His breathing was light and steady. He seemed genuinely exhausted. I stroked his thick hair. Asher. I called softly. He didn't answer. After a while, I gently closed my eyes too. For the next few days, Asher and I barely saw each other. Until Saturday. The weather was beautiful, and he wasn't at the hospital, but having tea with friends in the garden. I had been reading for a while and went down to the garden for some fresh air when I heard his friends mention my name. You're almost 30 and still won't get married. You're not actually interested in that little girl in your house, are you? Don't be ridiculous. She's still a kid. She's not that young. She's 20, isn't she? Asher chuckled, tapping the ash from his cigarette. I watched her grow up. In my eyes she'll always be just a child. As that so? We all used to think she was your child bride. Ha, nonsense. But Livy is very beautiful. You really don't have any improper thoughts about her. I watched Asher through the lush green leaves. He was silent for a few seconds, then shook his head. His expression faint. No. Alright, as long as you're sure. My family's third son Leo really likes Livy. If he pursues her, you don't have any objections, do you? Asher smirked. Only if he can actually win her over. Well, that's hard to say. I tiptoed away, quietly leaving the garden. I had several messages on my phone that I had originally planned to ignore. I knew perfectly well that this third young master Song Leo was only pursuing me because of a bet with his degenerate friends. But now, I suddenly changed my mind. Sorry, I just saw your message. Come pick me up now. By the time Leo Song arrived in his flashy sports car, I had just gone upstairs to change into a new dress. It was a bit revealing. The hemline 10 centimeters above my knees. I even put on makeup and a pair of high heels I'd never worn. Asher heard the commotion and walked over. He took one look at me, and his face instantly darkened. Livy, go back to your room. Leo smiled tentatively, trying to smooth things over. Asher, I'm just taking Livy to a movie. Asher shot him a cold glance. Get out, Uncle Chen. I walked over and stood in front of Leo, linking my arm with his. Leo and I already made plans to see a movie. Can you please not meddle in our affairs? Leo seemed to tremble. Asher's lips curled, his icy gaze landing on the hand I had linked with Leo's. Then, he spoke very calmly. Olivia, go back to your room. Don't make me say it a third time. I had just entered my bedroom, the door not even fully closed, when Asher pushed it open hard from the outside. The door slammed against the wall with a loud bang. I turned pale, wanting to flee. Asher, his face grim, closed the door, locked it, and then spun around to pin me against it. I had just started to struggle when a firm swat landed on my backside. The hem of my red dress rippled. What right do you have to hit me? I'm grown up. I'm not a child, I have the right to make friends. I cried and struggled, trying to push him away. Asher decisively grabbed my wrists and pinned them above my head. I sobbed, my cries growing louder. Asher, you're a bastard, a beast. Humph. You're right. Asher held me with one hand while the other slowly unbuttoned his shirt, neatly pulling the tails out, and then unbuckled his belt. I tensed instinctively. Livy, I am indeed a bastard and a beast. Asher pressed against me from behind, lowering his head to kiss my neck, nipping lightly. To have improper thoughts about the girl I raised, to do such vile things, of course I'm a beast. Perhaps I'm worse than a beast. To repeatedly have such wicked intentions, falling into the abyss. Asher wiped a tear from the corner of my eye, his voice a bit hoarse. Livy, it's been 5 days. The wound has healed, hasn't it? It hasn't. Let me go. Asher. I turned my head, trying to avoid his intimacy. His hand suddenly tightened, pressing our bodies together, fitting perfectly as if we were carved from the same block. It hasn't. Then let me check. I don't need you to check. Livy, don't hide your illness. Asher shamelessly switched back to his serious, gentlemanly demeanor, which conversely made me feel indecent. I'm not hiding anything, your medical skills are just terrible. No, not just your medical skills, your technique is terrible too. Hafe, my technique is terrible. Asher raised an eyebrow slightly, looking down at me. If I recall correctly, you were the one who wouldn't let me out. I quickly cut him off. That was just a normal physiological reaction. Very good. Asher glanced at me, his expression unreadable. He bent down and rolled his sleeves up twice. Then decisively grabbed my waist and pressed me against the door once more. The sunsets at the Chen residence were always unusually beautiful. Especially on an early summer evening. The garden was meticulously arranged, the green branches and leaves vibrant, as if painted in watercolors of high saturation. On the nearby terrace, the sheer, floor-to-ceiling curtains were only half drawn. The shadows of the trees slanted across the thin voile. A gentle breeze blew, making the shadows dance. The room was filled with the sound of quiet sobs and soft pleas. The door also trembled slightly, as if being struck. Asher placed his palm between my back and the door panel, cushioning me. I collapsed onto his shoulder. Glancing up, I saw our intertwined reflections in a nearby mirror. The man's tall, slender back, his broad, straight shoulders. His clothes still neat, completely shielding me within his embrace. And on the carpet, the bright red dress lay in a heap, mixed with a few small scraps of white fabric. I only glanced at it before turning away. Asher brushed the damp hair from my forehead. Livy, do you still want me to get out? His voice was hoarse, his eyes bloodshot. Yet a faint smile played on his lips. I had never realized that the upright and respectable Asher had such a wicked streak, and that he held such a grudge. I suppressed the uncomfortable tremor, raised an eyebrow at him, bit my lip, and pushed against his solid chest. Asher's eyes darkened. Olivia. I ignored him, pushing him hard. Asher seemed to grow angry. He grit his teeth, suddenly grabbed my wrist, and in the next instant, he thrust forward with all his strength. Caught off guard, I felt a wave of dizziness wash over me, as if countless white lights were flashing before my eyes. Asher. I gripped his arm tightly, bursting into tears of both shame and anger. The fountain in the garden pond switched on. The workers and gardeners were taking advantage of the sunset to start watering the plants. Asher bent down to kiss me, his laugh a little resigned. So you're not a little fish, but a little spouting whale, huh? From that day on, I stopped paying any attention to Asher. He was very busy lately. When we occasionally ran into each other at home, I treated him like thin air, acting as if I didn't see him. A couple of times, he seemed to be passing by my school and texted me to eat together. But I didn't reply. Thanks to my deliberate avoidance, Asher and I went almost half a month without seeing each other. This lasted until the Chen family's unchangeable monthly gathering, which I, as the family's nominal adopted daughter, could not miss. The story of how I became the nominal adopted daughter is quite dramatic. When I was 5, Asher's eldest brother and sister-in-law adopted me because they couldn't have children, but when I was 7, his sister-in-law suddenly became pregnant and gave birth to a pair of fraternal twins. Because of this, the couple decided to give up their adoption and send me back to the Welfare Institute. At that time, Asher was only 15. A single sentence from him was what kept me there. I was allowed to continue living in the Chen house, enjoying the most affluent life and receiving the best education. But because of this, my position in the Chen family became somewhat awkward. I was originally adopted by Asher's eldest brother, so I called Asher uncle. After they no longer wanted me, Asher didn't make me change how I addressed him. I just kept calling him that, from age 5 to 20. But what no one in the world knew was that I didn't want to call him uncle. I liked him, I wanted to marry him. Even when I grew up to be 16 or 17, many Chen family elders had hinted, reminding me to recognize my place. They warned me not to develop inappropriate ideas, just because Asher, in a moment of kindness, kept me by his side. The Chen family and Asher were my benefactors. As their adopted daughter, I couldn't repay their kindness with such betrayal. This gathering was much like the previous ones. Asher's eldest brother and sister-in-law were still indifferent towards me. The other Chen family elders were merely polite on the surface. The twins always showed a trace of hostility towards me. I overheard the helpers gossiping that they were probably wary of me once being their nominal older sister, afraid I would take a share of their inheritance. As usual, I tried to sit in an inconspicuous spot. While others chatted and laughed, I just kept my head down, eating fruit and snacks. Asher arrived a bit late, but the moment he appeared, the Chen household truly came alive. Mrs. Chen scolded him with feigned anger. "Why are you so late? You've kept all the family elders waiting for you." Asher's tone was faint as usual. "There was an emergency surgery at the hospital, so I was delayed." He sat down. Directly opposite me. He took off his glasses and rubbed his forehead, looking tired. Mrs. Chen immediately instructed a helper to bring some cooling, detoxifying tea, her heart aching for him. "You're working too hard. Look at you, you've lost weight." I snuck a peek at Asher. He really did look exhausted. He sat there, his eyes slightly lowered, his face expressionless. The creases of his eyelids were deeper than usual, and there were faint dark circles under his eyes. "Asher will be 29 in a few months, won't he?" Asher's aunt suddenly spoke up. "His marriage really can't be delayed any longer." She turned to Mrs. Chen. "Have you found anyone suitable?" Hearing this, Chen shook her head and sighed. "Asher just keeps saying he's busy with work and not in a hurry." No matter how busy you are, marriage is a once-in-a-lifetime event. It's the most important thing. It was the same topic every year. Asher's refusal to get married had practically become Mrs. Chen's obsession. "Asher, look at your close friends. No matter how wildly they used to fool around, they all obediently settled down and got married before 30. Mrs. Chen pleaded earnestly. As she was speaking, her expression suddenly changed. "Asher, what happened to your neck? How did you get injured like that?" My heart instantly clenched. The small, exquisite golden fork in my hand clattered onto the silver plate. Several people sitting nearby looked over at me. Asher also glanced at me faintly, then spoke slowly. "It's a mosquito bite." "A mosquito? Why weren't you more careful?" Mrs. Chen was skeptical. Asher's aunt chuckled. "Are you trying to fool a 3-year-old? That's clearly a woman's bite mark." "Asher, do you have a girlfriend?" Mrs. Chen's expression suddenly turned serious. "I don't care about these flings. It doesn't matter who she is. In short, if you have someone on the side, break it off. You should be well aware of your marriage situation. Your grandfather and your father have already selected several candidates." Asher responded with an indifferent, I lowered my eyes, mechanically eating the fruit on the plate. As if I hadn't slept for 3 days and nights, my head throbbing violently. I didn't know what Asher was thinking. From the first time we crossed the line until today, he had never once mentioned what exactly we were. "I've said it before, I'm not in a hurry to get married." Asher finally spoke, his voice slow. "I have my own plans." When it was time to leave, the car that usually took me was gone. Asher's Maybach was parked under a tree on the road outside the old house. The driver came over and invited me into the car. I thought for a moment, then followed him. The car drove smoothly. When we reached a turn, I suddenly called out to the driver, "Uncle Ning, you can just stop ahead. I'm going back to the school." The driver slowed down but didn't stop. Asher turned his head to look at me. "You're staying at home tonight. I want to go back to school." "Olivia, be good. Why should I listen to you?" "Uncle Chen, you are only my uncle in name." I looked at him calmly, lifting my chin slightly. But he couldn't know that I was gritting my teeth so hard, my hands clenched behind my back, that my nails were nearly digging through my palms. But I felt no pain. My heart felt like it was being scorched by a fierce fire, restless and anxious, yet also terrified and hopeless. I didn't know what was waiting for me. Asher was like a deep, dark pool of water. I used all my strength, but he didn't seem to ripple at all. "I have to go on a business trip tomorrow. It's a long one this time. About a month before I'm back. But your birthday is coming up." Asher suddenly grabbed my wrist, pulling me into his embrace. "I will definitely be back in time for your birthday." When I came out of the shower, Asher was sitting on the small sofa at the foot of my bed, fiddling with a small decorative item. "Do you like it?" He handed the object to me. This man who was always so proper and upright now had a wicked glint in his eyes. Confused, I reached out and took it. One glance was all it took. My face flushed red and I threw it onto the carpet. It was a small acrylic figurine of a whale. The most unbelievable part, it was a little whale, spouting water. Asher actually laughed out loud. He untied the belt of my pajamas and leaned over, pressing me down onto the bed. Olivia. He had such indifferent eyes. In the dozen or so years I had known him, I had rarely seen him show any emotion. Even in his arrogant youth, there was always an unusual calm and distance about him. He wasn't emotionally expressive, never had a woman he liked or admired, and seemed completely uninterested in love or desire. But the man he was now, tinged with sensuality, seemed to have shed all his previous seriousness and restraint. I raised my hands and gently wrapped them around him. Asher. I know that for someone like you, with your background, everything in your life was strictly arranged from the moment you were born. I also know that while the Chen family is wary of me, none of them truly respect me. In their minds, even if you were involved with me, it would just be a fling. But I didn't think so. And I didn't feel like I was beneath him. Why have you been sulking these past few days? Asher Chen lowered his head, planting light kisses on my face. The last kiss landed on my lips, brushing against them softly. You don't know. How would I know if you don't tell me? The bite mark on your neck. I'm afraid your mother has already guessed something. I will handle it. You don't need to worry about these things. Asher stroked my hair. Would I ever let you be wronged? That sounded incredibly doting, but it made my heart ache. I pushed him off and flipped over, straddling his waist. It's true, no one else dares to bully me. The one who always bullies me is you. I looked down at the man beneath me. His eyes were colored with a faint lust, but beneath that desire, there was still that same aloofness. He was aroused but not in love. I felt a sting in my eyes, and my heart ached intensely. There were so many questions I wanted to ask. But when you're young, you're always like that. It feels as if asking first means you've already lost. Asher leaned back against the headboard, looking at me. The bridge of his tall, straight nose still bore the faint indentations from his glasses. I leaned down, gently tracing them, then lowered my head to kiss the small mole at the corner of his eye. Asher, tonight I want to bully you for once. Just like you bullied me that night. The truth was, I had no experience at all. In the few times we'd been together, Asher had always been the one in control. But I had taken dance classes for a few years as a child, classical, Latin, ballroom. I wasn't an expert, but it was enough to impress a novice. And so, after some initial clumsiness, I quickly grasped the technique of taking the lead and gradually became more comfortable. The desire in Asher's eyes deepened. I watched as he was completely consumed by it, all his cool restraint melting away. Olivia, he called my name, his voice hoarse. His hot palms gripped my waist, trying to take back control. But I suddenly stopped. As he looked at me in confusion, I leaned in close, kissing his ear. Asher, does that feel good? His breathing seemed to stop for a beat. His body, already hot and tense. Olivia. Asher's voice was even huskier. Don't stop, continue. But I sat up straight, looking down on him. Asher. Why should I listen to you, Olivia? I smirked. Uncle Chen, I only listen to my husband. After that, I completely lost track of how many times I was forced to call him husband. I don't know if Asher just liked hearing me say it, or if he simply found it exciting. Either way, he was tireless. He even woke me from a dead sleep the next morning before he left for his business trip. Livy. I was so sleepy, being woken from a dream. I instinctively swung my hand. A weak slap that happened to land right on Asher's face. Olivia, the man's voice was laced with annoyance. Asher stood by the bed, impeccably dressed in a suit. I, on the other hand, had messy hair, my wrinkled nightgown bunched up around my waist, my eyes barely open. Livy, I'm about to leave for the airport. Be good, call me husband, one more time. On the third day of Asher's trip, which was a weekend, Mrs. Chen suddenly paid me a visit. She rarely looked so pleased. Seeing me, she was even uncharacteristically warm, pulling me by the hand. Every time I see you, I feel like you've gotten prettier. She patted my hand and led me into the living room. I came to see you today about something very important. It's also what your Uncle Chen wants. I was a bit baffled, but I felt a vague sense of unease. Mrs. Chen pulled me down to sit, then cheerfully took her phone from her bag and found a photo for me. Quick, look. Isn't she beautiful? The woman in the photo was young and elegant. Her eyebrows and eyes were especially gentle, exuding the air of a traditional, well-bred lady. She had a face that was instantly likable. She was, indeed, very beautiful. She's lovely, isn't she? Hearing this, Mrs. Chen's smile deepened. I thought so too. I always felt Asher's personality was too quiet, and I wanted to find a more lively girl for him. But who knew he'd like this type? Mrs. Chen smiled so wide the wrinkles at the corners of her eyes fanned out. This is the fiancé your Uncle Chen chose himself. I sat there, frozen. The smile on my lips and in my eyes was about to stiffen. Mrs. Chen continued. Your Uncle Chen also specifically said, the reason he chose this Miss Fu was, 1, because he likes her. And 2, because she has a gentle and pure temperament. He said we wouldn't have to worry about her bullying you in the future. I suddenly looked up at Mrs. Chen. Uncle Chen said that. Of course. Mrs. Chen didn't hesitate. After all, Asher has been taking care of you since you were little. He doesn't say it, but he cares for you a lot. I suddenly seemed to understand what Asher had said that night. Would I ever let you be wronged? So, this was his solution. To find a wife he deemed gentle and kind and then marry her. Oh Livy, this is wonderful news for our Chen family. Miss Fu is very beautiful. She and Uncle Chen are a perfect match. I took one last look at Cecilia Fu in the photo. She truly was an incredibly kind and gentle girl. Congratulations, Uncle Chen. I smiled, offering my blessing. Mrs. Chen was extremely pleased, smiling even more brightly. We should start preparing for the wedding. We'll probably need your help with a lot of things. You can't say no then. I nodded in agreement. Mrs. Chen then talked for a long time about how beautiful, gentle, and obedient Miss Fu was. Apparently, the entire high society of Beijing knew that the eldest daughter of the Fu family was famously a good girl. I saw Mrs. Chen's car off and stood alone in the twilight of the garden for a long time. I didn't resent anyone. I was just a little envious. If I had been born with a background like Miss Fu's, perhaps liking Asher would have been much simpler. By the time Asher was about to end his business trip, I had already secured a scholarship to a university abroad, but I didn't tell anyone about this. Not even the Chen family knew I was leaving. The Chen family was quite busy lately. Rumors were swirling outside that the infamous iron tree of the Chen family was finally about to bloom. I went to class and left as usual, nothing seeming out of the ordinary. Leo even secretly asked me out a few more times. I finally told him bluntly, actually, I knew from the beginning you were only pursuing me because of a bet with your awful friends. Leo was stunned, then looked a little embarrassed. Livy, you knew all along. Of course. You guys are always doing pointless things like that. It only took me a few inquiries to find out. Leo giggled and scratched his head. But Livy, although it started as a bet, I think I actually started to like you. That day, when you walked over in that red dress and took my arm, I was really moved. Stop right there. I shot Leo a look. I was just acting. Don't get any ideas, Livy. Can't I seriously pursue you now? Not. Because I already have someone I like. Leo immediately looked indignant. Damn it. Who is he? I'm not telling you. The point is I like someone else. I don't like you. So, don't come looking for me anymore. Livy, can't I just compete with him fairly? No. Why not, Livy? Why do you have so many whys? Liking someone isn't about who comes first or last. It can't be fair. The human heart is already biased, especially when facing the person you like. But liking someone is truly exhausting. So this was the last chance I was giving Asher. And the last chance I was giving myself. I had to be true to my own feelings. I didn't want to leave any regrets. If it didn't end well, I could accept it calmly and let go completely. By the time Asher finished his trip and was preparing to fly back, my study abroad procedures were nearly complete. My departure date was set for the day after my 21st birthday. Every birthday since my first year with the Chens, Asher had been by my side. I wanted to spend this one with him too. The night before Asher's return, I had trouble sleeping. It was 1 a.m. and I was still awake. I decided to get up and heat some milk in the kitchen. But just then, my bedroom door was suddenly pushed open. I hadn't even turned on the light. Only the clear moonlight filtered through the sheer curtains, illuminating half the room. In the darkness, Asher's tall, slender figure seemed even taller, more graceful. I was a bit dazed, staring at him blankly, unable to tell if this was reality or a dream. Weren't you supposed to fly back tomorrow night? On my desk, there were several applications and documents scattered about, still not put away. Luckily, my luggage was already packed and had been moved to my school dorm in batches. My mind was a mess, a tangled knot. It wasn't until Asher spoke. Not asleep yet. Uncle Chen, why are you back so early? Asher didn't answer. After a long moment, he spoke. Quite the talent, Olivia. Calling me husband in bed, and uncle when you're out of it. Are you playing me? I felt a little wronged, but I didn't want to reveal how much I cared. Not in front of him. I wanted him to panic, to be insecure, to worry about losing me, to be completely distracted. I wanted him to be aroused, but I also wanted him to be in love. Did I say it wrong? I got out of bed and stood casually by the desk, subtly shielding the papers. Ever since I was little, haven't I always called you Uncle Chun? I smiled, my gaze even fainter than his. Asher said nothing, just looked at me quietly. After about 30 seconds, he walked over and handed me a small box. Happy birthday. My eyes stung. But I didn't reach out to take it. It's not my birthday yet. Asher pressed the box into my hand. There's another present for the actual day. The small velvet box in my palm wasn't large. If it was jewelry, it could only be something small, like a ring. We'll open it together on your birthday. Asher stroked my hair and gently kissed my forehead. Go to sleep, good night, Livy. As soon as Asher left my room, I opened the box. But the gift inside disappointed me. It wasn't the ring I had imagined, just a necklace. For some reason, I thought of that gentle, beautiful Miss Fu. My mind replayed the image of her and Asher standing side by side. Mrs. Chen had been very clear that day. She was the fiancé Asher had personally chosen. How could he not like her? I didn't wait for my birthday. The day before, I left school and went straight to the airport. A few days after I arrived at my university abroad, Leo suddenly showed up in the same country. I was skeptical about his ability to study abroad. Leo was very blunt. I'm paying my own way. I'm just here to get the credentials. It's completely different from an academic type like you who tested in. Livy, we can still be friends, right? I flatly refused. Leo, there is no such thing as a purely platonic friendship between a man and a woman. It's either a mutual, unspoken desire or one side has ulterior motives. Leo looked a bit awkward. Right. I have ulterior motives, don't bother my studies. But we can have a meal occasionally, right? I was about to refuse, but Leo said slyly. I'm bursting with so much gossip I can't find anyone to share it with. I'm going to suffocate. I'm begging you, Livy. The protagonists in Leo's gossip were all people I knew well. The male lead was Asher. The female lead, however, was being so tightly protected by Asher that the entire Chen family was in an uproar, yet he refused to reveal a single thing. Leo was incredibly impressed. Asher is really something else. Just the look on your grandpa's face is enough to scare me, but he's actually managing to stand his ground. I wonder what kind of goddess this woman is, to make Asher dead set on marrying her, even pulling a bait and switch. Leo was extremely excited. Originally, that Miss Fu was one of the candidates for Asher's fiancée. I don't know how he did it, but now she's engaged to his cousin. What's even crazier is that the Fu family agreed. Miss Fu agreed and your seventh uncle apparently agreed too. You mean Ethan Chen? Seeing Leo nod, I couldn't help but frown. Ethan's personality was vastly different from Asher's. As far as I knew, he hadn't been without a girlfriend for years. In Beijing circles, while not the biggest playboy, he was still a well-known Casanova. Why would Miss Fu agree? Ethan's girlfriends were never in short supply. I remembered every one of them being the beautiful, dazzling, and flirtatious type. I was also very curious at first. But after their engagement was set, a rumor started to spread. It said that Miss Fu has been in the same school as your seventh uncle since kindergarten. They're basically childhood sweethearts. She's been secretly in love with him for all these years, which is why she agreed to the marriage alliance between the two families. What about Ethan? Does he like Miss Fu? Leo thought for a long time before speaking. I heard his first love just got married overseas not long ago. So that's probably the main reason he gave in and agreed to the marriage. I was speechless for a moment. But matters of the heart were no one else's business. I wasn't Miss Fu. I didn't know if she felt more joy at getting her wish or more anxiety. But perhaps there was one thing we had in common. We both wanted to try to fight just once for the person we loved, so we wouldn't have any regrets. But Livy, who do you think the woman Asher likes actually is? My brother and I, our whole group, we're dying to know. We've practically listed every eligible girl in Beijing, and we still can't guess who it is. As Leo spoke, his eyes suddenly widened as he stared at me. Holy crap, we totally missed you. My heart clenched, and I was just trying to think of a way to cover it up when Leo spoke again. But he's your uncle. He wouldn't be that much of a beast, right? I suddenly felt so guilty I couldn't speak, not daring to look him in the eye. My gaze fell on the whale figurine on my desk. I had ended up going back for it and brought it with me when I left the country. What are you looking at? Why are you in a daze? Leo followed my gaze and also saw the little spouting whale figurine. He reached right out and picked it up. This is cute. Livy, give it to me. I practically leaped up and snatched it back, my face beat red. No, you should go, I have to study. No, then no. Do you have to get so angry? Leo was still a bit confused as I pushed him out the door. You're so stingy, Livy. I clutched the little whale, suddenly thinking back to that scene. To Asher's shirt and trousers, all soaked by me. I buried my face in my hands, rolled across the bed, and then grabbed a pillow to hide my face. Asher stood in the study of the Chen family's old house. Before him sat three elders. One was his grandfather, the most powerful voice in the Chen family. And the other two were his parents, who had always placed high expectations on him and strictly supervised him. For over 20 years, he had always held himself to the highest standard. He lived as the pride of his parents, the elders, and the entire Chen family. The only person he wasn't was himself, Asher. So this time, he refused to back down. He had spent this time preparing, thinking of solutions and retreat paths for every possible outcome. He had kept her hidden, intending to publicly announce their relationship on her 21st birthday, propose to her, then get engaged, get married, and build their little family. But Olivia had quietly left to study abroad. He didn't even know when she had started planning this, when she'd had this idea, or when she had quietly grown up, becoming so capable and independent. He was proud of her, but also felt a sense of loss. She was no longer the little girl who would tug on his sleeve and hide timidly behind him. He didn't know when it started, but his emotions, his joy and anger, were all controlled by her every move. Just like that last night, when she said she wanted to bully him for once, she had already taken complete control. Asher, that woman, it's Olivia, isn't it? Mrs. Chen sat there, looking as if she had aged 10 years, she sighed. Actually, that night at the family dinner, when I asked about the mark on your neck, your aunt said it was a woman's bite. For some reason, Olivia's name flashed in my mind. But I just didn't want to believe it, so I dismissed it. Mrs. Chen sighed again. This is my fault. I should have been on guard sooner. Asher looked at his mother, his voice calm. Matters of the heart are fated. No matter how you guard against it, what's meant to happen will happen. When she was 5, you, eldest brother and sister-in-law, went to the institute to pick her. When she was 7, everyone said they didn't want her anymore, that sending her to a better-off institute wasn't doing her wrong. I was the one who insisted on keeping her in the Chen family, on keeping her by my side. So, if you must blame someone, you can only blame fate. Because it was fated from the very beginning. Mrs. Chen's tears fell. She understood her son. The person he had chosen, he would not change. If she continued to stand in his way, she would only damage their relationship. But as a daughter-in-law, she truly couldn't be satisfied. If she had to find some silver lining to comfort herself, perhaps it was that this girl was a child she had watched grow up. Her background was clean, she was beautiful, and she was smart and hardworking. There is one more thing I must confess to you all. Asher took a step forward, looked at the three elders, and spoke slowly. I was the one who coveted her first. I was the one who had improper intentions. On her 18th birthday, I drank too much, and I bullied her. Mrs. Chen shot up from her seat. Asher, how could you do such a thing? Olivia was only 18, she was still a child. Mrs. Chen could hardly believe it. Her son, who she saw as bright and upright as the moon, could have such a despicable side. Yes. She had just turned 18, she had just become an adult. So, I am the despicable one. I am the one who was in the wrong. If Olivia had gone to the police after I bullied her, I would be the one whose reputation was in tatters. But she was too kind, she chose to forgive me. So, Grandpa, Mom, Dad, it is I who am indebted to Olivia. Not her who is climbing the social ladder. I hope that when she marries into our Chen family, you can all treat her well. For the sake of the fact that she once preserved the reputation of the son you are all so proud of, please treat her a little better. Mrs. Chen couldn't hold back her sobs. Grandpa Chen looked at Asher with deep meaning. All right. Things have come to this. There's no point in saying more. A girl has given her innocence to you. Our Chen family cannot behave like beasts. Get ready. Arrange the wedding. Asher looked at his grandfather with gratitude. Grandpa, thank you for your blessing. As he walked out of the study, Asher finally let out a long breath. He had deliberately said he'd bullied Olivia. He deliberately said she was 18, not 20. He did it so the Chen family would feel indebted to her. He knew the Chens were not satisfied with Olivia as a daughter-in-law. He was all too clear on their attitude towards her all these years. Polite on the surface, but fundamentally looking down on her. He didn't want Olivia to face those arrogant looks and suffer injustices after she married in. As for what the elders thought of his despicable behavior, whether his perfect image in their hearts had collapsed, Asher didn't care. Right now, he just really missed Livy, and he really missed that little spouting whale. When he was at the Chen house, he always found a way to sneak into my bedroom in the middle of the night. Now, across the ocean, in the apartment I rented, Asher had somehow managed to appear right downstairs, right at my door. And then, just as I turned off the lights to sleep, he knocked, nearly scaring me to death. I, of course, let him in. After all, the news that Cecilia Fu and Ethan were engaged was already widespread. Asher was just playing matchmaker, he didn't even like Miss Fu. Besides, the female lead in this story had always been me, so I was of course very happy. I opened the door and let him in. Asher said nothing, he just leaned against the doorframe, looking at me. At first I met his gaze, but gradually his stare made me shy. "What are you doing, Asher?" I glared at him, turning to walk away, when I suddenly saw the little whale on my desk. In an instant I was mortified, and Asher saw it too. In the dimly lit room he couldn't help but chuckle. Then, his tall figure loomed over, hugging me from behind. Little whale. The back of my neck burned, I was so embarrassed I could have fainted. His kisses were already landing by my ear. "What are you angry about? It's beautiful. Don't you dare say it. I forbid you to kiss me." I struggled, trying to break free. But Asher wasn't insistent, he just raised an eyebrow, smiling at me. "I can stop talking, just call me husband one more time and I'll stop." "I won't. You really won't." He laughed again. "Little fish. I didn't bring a change of clothes this time. If I get wet." "Husband." I covered my face with my hands, closed my eyes and whispered it. The arm around my waist tensed for a second, but in the next it held me even tighter. "Olivia," he bowed his head, resting his forehead against mine. "I'm sorry. I should have told you sooner." "Told me what?" Asher held me against his chest, so I couldn't see the smile flash in his eyes. I only felt my fingers suddenly grow cold. I looked down. It was a diamond ring. "Told you that I liked you, even before you started liking me." Asher looked up at me, his voice still as calm and faint as ever. "Come downstairs slowly." And perhaps Olivia would never know. The truth was, that night, he wasn't drunk at all. If it hadn't been her, hadn't been the person he loved, how could he have used alcohol as an excuse to be so reckless? What's more, he had known from the very beginning that Olivia wasn't drunk either. She had probably forgotten. At her 18th coming-of-age ceremony, the first time she ever drank, she couldn't get drunk no matter how much she had. But that night, she had only drunk half of what she had at 18. Yet she was so drunk, she couldn't tell heaven from earth. But he would never expose that. Because that was the sweetest secret in his heart. This story reveals how misunderstandings and unspoken insecurities can nearly sever a deep connection. It shows that true love may operate silently, hidden behind a calm exterior or complex family duties. Ultimately, genuine love requires not just faded feelings, but also the courage to fight for it and the honesty to finally clear the air.